But here's the most important one. Let's look at this. Digital games. Digital games, this is right here. Digital games, digital game licenses. Digital games represents Magic the Gathering Arena and D&D Beyond. This is right here. Okay? So Magic the Gathering Arena, which we know grew, I think it was like 23%, and D&D Beyond only grew 2%, which shows you that the canceled subs of D&D Beyond worked. Because how is that possible? How is it possible that Magic sales are up a lot, by the way? D&D is supposedly up, but yet their digital platforms grew 2%. Am I wrong? Am I taking crazy pills here? That's what happened. Is they're trying to hide it, but I guarantee that those canceled subs, I estimated it was a huge, I mean, I know what it was. I mean, they lost millions and millions of dollars, and it's now starting to hit them because a lot of people canceled after having a year-long subscription, and then when they didn't renew, now they're starting to hit because they're not getting those recharges, and they're expecting charges. So back in January, no one cared, but now it's starting to hit, and it's going to continue to hit. So their digital division for D&D and Arena grew 2%, and that's it. And then if you go to this, you go to their other consumer items, it is down 18%. And I think it was down 20% last year. So if you go down 50%, you then have to increase your sales by 100% to get back to where you were. You know, if you had 100 and went down to 50, okay, you just lost 50%. You now have to make 100% to get back to it. So their toy divisions are tanking incredibly fast, which goes back to my first thing, is that where can you buy toys? When Toys R Us went out of business, I knew that was like big, big, big trouble. Yeah, you can buy toys at, Walmart, H Mart, Kmart, all those, whatever. All the marts you can buy toys at, and Target. But you know what people use now? Kids use this. They use an iPhone and an iPad, and that is their toy. And that is their infinite toy. It just is. And they have to transform to a digital company, but they're in real, real trouble, is that they're going down. Their sales for toys are tanking. They warned heavily that they're going to have a dismal quarter, especially Christmas. They even said Christmas is going to be terrible. So they are going all in on digital. But the whole thing is that if you look at the breakdown, by the way, so digital, I have here, sorry. Digital was $133 million, and that includes Arena, D&D Beyond, Baldur's Gate 3, Monopoly Go. So altogether, the revenue of Magic is $287 million. The revenue of D&D is $3 million. And then in that $133 million, you got a little bit of both. You got a little bit of Magic, you got a little bit of D&D, right? But that's it. I mean, that's like the only thing holding up this entire company is basically Magic and digital, because everything else is failing. I know I was talking a lot. What are your reactions to all of this, since I threw so much?
Micronauts, they own Micronauts.
Yes, I love Micronauts.
Kids aren't buying action figures. Their action figures today are on a computer screen. That's how they play. They play Batman, like, not with an action figure, but with, like, Arkham Asylum or whatever the latest Batman game is. And yeah, their parents are it's Roblox, it's Minecraft, it's their digital toys. Mm-hmm. We're moving into an era of digital toys. Mm-hmm. So Hasbro is stuck with they have spent all this money acquiring IPs, and the physical toy market is dying. And it would have died even without Toys R Us. I mean, Toys R Us died because kids were buying fewer toys. and so that's just the way it's going. And it's staggering to me. So they spent $146 million. I was just double checking that as you were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are my numbers right? Yeah, it was $146 million to acquire D&D Beyond so that they could make, $3 million a quarter. They're all in. They have to be all in.
Oh,
they have to create a monopoly,
mm-hmm.
or otherwise that, and for the viewers that don't follow these quarterly reports, I mean, Hasbro is pulling Wizards of the Coast is pulling the entire Hasbro train at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone say it's like a 4-legged dog and 3 of the legs aren't working, and there's like 1 leg holding the whole thing up.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, and it's happening very fast. And what they were trying to do is because I do follow some of the hobbyist stuff, is that they were trying to get into the collector's market, and they were trying to like make limited edition Transformers and toys and sell those at a huge premium. But the problem is that the quality of these are supposed to be terrible. So you can't, it's one of those, it's a catch-22. It's like, okay, we could sell this toy for hundreds of dollars. Great, but you can't make a $10 toy and sell for $200. You're going to have to spend 50, 60, 70. You got to actually spend money and make it really worth it. I mean, you've seen these collector things at Gen Con, and they're amazing. Yeah. They're incredible. Yeah.
The people buying the toys are our age.
Yes.
And it's like, Todd Toys, like McFarlane's company, right? Mm-hmm. Those are like, those are high-end toys. You go into comic book stores, that's what holds up those comic book stores, not the comic books themselves.
And Magic.
And Magic.
And Pokemon and those others.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, the stock tanked, by the way. I mean, everyone's like, well, after these numbers came out, it went down 10%.
Again, yeah.
It's in the 40s now.
Oh, it's in the 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm checking that.
Yeah, it went down a lot. And what the most interesting number is, I'm going to get to. I know people are like, numbers, it hurts my brain. It hurts my brain. Well, I'll promise I'll stop soon. Here's what's crazy. The total liabilities, okay, that's how much they owe. Hasbro owns $6.1 billion. Their market cap is $6.3 billion, 6.4. So the company is worth $6.4 billion, but they owe $6.1 billion. That is bad, okay? People are like, they can't go out of business. They can't declare bankruptcy. No, they can. Trust me, it can happen. I mean, it's actually, when their stock's $100 a share and they were buying, was it One Digital, whatever it was called, the digital media company, they bought that for $4 billion. $4 billion. They sold it for $500 million. They lost $3.5 billion on that. Now, it's a tax write-off, and they're like going to end up paying no taxes because of that. But you still lost the money. I mean, you can only go so far. You can't write off forever. So, back when they were $100 a share and they're worth like $15 billion, sure, they can make these extravagant purchases. But now when they're worth $6 billion and they're almost worth less than their liabilities, things start happening, and it's like they really have to start. And they said they wanted to double D&D and Magic. It went up 3% from last year to this year. I don't know my math that well, but I don't think that's double. I don't even think that's close to double. Yeah. Like they are. But back to your original question, I do believe a rising tide raises all ships, depending on the market. In this case, it definitely has, because everyone else is doing much better. People who get into D&D will be exposed to D&D and who really end up liking it. The same way this happened with board games is you'll try other board games, you'll try other role-playing games. And the good news is you don't have to go to the store. You don't have to. You can buy them online. And more people are doing that. I mean, as someone who sells these for a living, I can tell you my digital numbers are very, very, very high compared to my physical numbers. By the way, we had a super chat. I forgot. You could always ask super chats. Do you think this will limit analog growth from the Switch to digital? Do you think this will limit analog growth from the Switch to digital? Oh, in other words, will analog growth start to level off or even decrease? What do you think?
When we say analog, do we mean the physical D&D books?
I guess so.
I just think that that's the trend, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's raising prices, and WotC's raised their prices quietly twice. Paizo did. I don't blame them, by the way, because I know how much these cost. I mean, paper has gone up like a massive amount. 40%,
right? Yeah, over the last year.
Well, I put it this way. I was talking to my warehouse, and he buys, cardboard containers at massive bulk. I mean, he ships ridiculous amounts, and he was getting, for a regular standard cardboard box, it was costing him 20 cents a box forever. And now it's 60 cents for the exact same box. So
that's triple the price.
Yeah. And on top of that, cardboards, the cardboard is those boards that you get, those like punch out boards in board games. So those are usually 10 cents a board for those. I've heard some people quoting as much as 50 cents for one of those boards. Think about how many boards are in one of those games, It's like, I'll put 10 boards in a game. It's $1, It's like, well, now 10 boards in a game is $5, like now you have to raise the price of your game, like probably $20 just because of that. So it's getting very expensive. I was thinking of analog gaming. Oh, do you think analog gaming, like actually playing D&D in person, is going to suffer?
Nope.
Well, I don't think it's going to suffer, but I don't think it's going to grow. I think it's going to kind of stay the same, more or less. I mean, you're in a school district, so you're in a unique setting. And I hear, like, the two places where it's staying the same, if not growing, is schools and libraries. I hear, like, both of those are doing very well.
I have, not only do I run it at school, I run in a nonprofit organization that supplies dungeon masters. So the kids can have a dungeon masters. And they work through the libraries and churches and stuff. We are packed. We have more dungeon masters than ever.
Great.
The libraries are more crowded than ever. I think that there is certainly a huge interest in physical analog play. I just met a new player today, and she was brought in by Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I said, did you play D&D before? She says, well, kind of. I played Baldur's Gate. So it did bring in at least one player that I know. And I'm going to jump back to this question before I lose my train of thought, because I'm old. Sure. I was just looking at it is at an all-time low, Hasbro stock.
Yep.
$46.03. I had made a mistake in last year. I said it had hit the low, and I was off by like $1 or something, and it bounced back into the 50s. Like, people jumped all over me, but it is now at a low, and that is not good. And if its assets, if its liabilities is greater than its market capitalization, this is a company in some serious trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, we had some super chats because people were like, what does this all mean? Dragon of Care said, wait, so these numbers, Hasbro's 100 million away from bankruptcy, bring to liability, market cap and stuff, something I'm not familiar with, economics and companies. They're not hundreds of millions of dollars away from bankruptcy, but if they want to start expanding or buying out things, they can't. Okay. The only way they can do it is to borrow money. And by the way, they already owe, let's see how much money they owe according to this. According to this, they have $3.6 billion in long-term debt. And there's interest on that every day. So they are basically 50% of their company is in debt, if you go by those numbers. It's going to be very hard for them to start getting money. Like if they say, hey, we want to do something cool, we need to go to the bank and borrow 100 million, 200 million. Well, they won't give it to them, or they're going to give it to them in really bad rates, or they're going to have to start selling stock to raise that capital, which these companies don't like doing. They are getting it. Their access to capital and expansion becomes more limited. And what they're doing now really has to work. That's what it really comes down to. It's like they just have very little room to make mistakes. And if they continue to make mistakes, they can go bankrupt because they literally won't have enough cash. And they pay a dividend too, which good on them. I'm happy. I wish all companies, they really should all pay dividends, but so they pay a lot of money out too. So my thing is like, are they going to go out of business tomorrow? No. But are they like, everything will be fine? Not really. I mean, mark my words, one day, if we start seeing them sell like the G.I. Joe property, or, they start selling some of their properties, because that's another way you make money, is you start selling these things. That's, Micronauts. I wonder how much you get Micronauts for.